beautiful people across the globe. We just want to welcome you to another edition of DAKICKBACK, The Kickback, with Sharika, Sabrina, and EB.
It's finally August, which is our birthday month. Go Kickback. Sharika, I don't know why in my head I thought we had 2 years, but do you realize we have 3?
Yep.
Like, we're a whole toddler. We made it through the terrible twos. And now, what can 3-year-olds do that 2-year-olds can't? I kind of feel like 3-year-olds kind of don't. 3 and 4 is kind of like, meh. Isn't that exciting?
I feel like 3 and 4, you're getting a hang of the potty training, which to me is like the best. Like, when a kid can go to the bathroom on their own, like, I feel like you're off to the races. So I feel like that's what 3s and 4s bring. I mean, I don't really know because I don't have the kids, but I think like 3 is, I feel like that's like, okay, I'm going to the potty by myself.
I mean, sure for the adults, but for the kid, is it really that much of a vibe? You know, imagine life. You don't even have to. That's one of the reasons it took me so long to drink the proper amount of water every day, because I just hate having to go to the bathroom. I'm like, I'm over here. I'm having these conversations. I'm doing this task. I'm having fun dancing. Now I have to stop my whole life and go to the bathroom. So
but do you want to be in a poopy diaper though? Like, do you
absolutely not. But they are like in the Garden of Eden. Right? So do they realize? Well, no, they absolutely do, because babies even cry. They're like, somebody handle this right now.
They know.
They do know. So embarrassing that we just dove headfirst into the poo conversation at the top of the pod. But that's what it is. It's the Kickback, and you all will have noticed that there's another voice besides my own and Sharika's. That's right. We finally have another special guest, and this guest is super special to me. I've known this young woman for, golly, maybe 8 years or so. I met her through my church, and she's just incredible. Super, super talented, super, super chill, super, super authentic and fun to talk to. But I think even more so than that, she is a fellow Snapchatter.
I'm on there.
I should put like her love for God and others right at the top. But I'm like, you know what? I love a good Snapchat. And Sarah, you don't know this, but I really don't have that many people on my Snapchat. Really? It is like a tight, it's a tight space, like family, close friends. Some of the people from our church, like once, if they were in youth ministry with me, once they were like 18, I was like, sure. Not that I had any crazy content, but sometimes the young people have crazy content, and I don't want to have to go run and tell their parents.
I get it. They're too much sometimes.
Right. So, we are thrilled to have Sara, because as I often do, there are certain people whose stories I follow. Sarah is one of the young people that I don't have to mute. No shade to the other young people, but some of you, you know, between the butt slapping and other things, I'm like, you know what? I won't see this. If you want to send me a snap, that's fine, but I won't even have a glimpse of her story. But Sarah is your safe space for me, Sarah, and I appreciate that. So Sharika and I were talking about the Barbie movie, and as I often do, I was like, oh, what's Sarah up to on Snap? And I saw some amazing conversation points when it comes to this Barbie movie. So I'm really excited to have Sarah on the pod today. It's going to be great. Probably one of my favorite episodes, besides that time I talk about Melania's nude pictures and Be Best, the time my mom was on the episode, and now when my best friend AJ too. Oh, Patrick, you know what? I have so many favorites. I shouldn't do that, but I know this is going to be a great one. I'm going to talk about my temp check, because I am currently packing for a rando vacation. My husband and I have a lot of stuff going on this fall. We hit another major milestone. Yay, we paid off our car. Woo! So now we're saving for, well, I guess technically my car. But now we're saving for his truck. But every time we pay something off, we have a celebration. But my husband is really into video games, and his ideal thing is just to sit and not have me bother him and be like, hey, come give me a kiss, or hey, come listen to me talk about this random thing for 10 minutes. He wants to do that uninterrupted. And I'm like, let's go here. Let's go there. So when one of my friends literally 3 or 4 days ago was like, hey, I'm going to be in Vegas this weekend. You should come. I was like, oh my gosh, should I come? Oh my gosh, am I really going? Oh my gosh, why are the plane tickets from Tampa to Vegas so cheap? Oh my gosh, I'm going to Vegas. Oh my gosh, I need to cancel because why am I going to Vegas? I do have an aunt who lives there. My mom has been there so many times, so I will get to see my aunt and all that. And it's not even that long, you guys. I'm leaving on a Friday. I was coming back on Sunday, but literally yesterday, they're like, oh, let's stay one more day. So I changed my flight. I'm coming back Monday. I don't have any plans. I can't even see Usher because he's not there right now. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm like, babe, you can sit here in the house, but I got to be free. I got to be me. And that's why my song is Friday. Y'all remember Friday? I think this was probably my song before, but she said, it's Friday, gotta get down on the Friday. That is me. And my favorite line, which describes how I feel about this Vegas trip, is we so excited. We so excited. We're gonna have a blast today. So that's me. I got my nails painted Barbie pink and I'm ready to go. Sarah,
There you go.
how are you feeling?
I'm
Temp check. You're
okay. It's mostly just business as usual from me. Nothing really going on, but me and my friends are looking to move into a townhome together. I know, so hopefully I'll be out of my kind of, I don't want to say crummy apartment because that really I feel like is very dramatic, but first adult apartment by myself. Now we're upgrading to lower rent, hopefully between the three of us, in kind of a better space. So that's in the works. And then obviously I saw like 5 consecutive hours worth of movies last week in one sitting. So, I'm doing pretty good. I don't know. I would give it like a solid, probably like as hot as it is right now, like maybe like mid to low 80s. I don't hate warm weather. And like right now I can like smell it in the air. Like fall is just on the horizon. I can smell it, So I'm doing pretty okay. I would say like if I were gonna put a song to it, I don't know if anyone else was gonna say this, but the Barbie World Nicki Minaj Ice Spice song, but then also the Billie Eilish like What Was I Made For? Like those two side by side is like the headspace that I'm in right now. Is like very casual vibes, but also then if I like sit still for a little too long, I contemplate my life a little bit too much. So that's where I am.
I love it. I haven't heard the Billie Eilish one, so I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm going to look that one up. And there was one at the beginning of the movie. Do y'all remember when Barbie would wake up and they're like, me and my girls, we look good in all the colors, but we're choosing pink or something? That was really cute too.
It's the song that the last scene of Barbie is set to. Is Billie the one with like where it talks about like her mom and I am Ken. The one who's like having all the flashbacks. Yeah, that's what that song is.
Love it. Sharika, how are you feeling?
Okay, well, I feel I'm all over the place, but I'm going to share this. EB's not here, but he did send his temp, so I'm going to share that with you. He said his temp is currently 75. Our brother is still not with us. He's not away. He just had a procedure, and when he's back, I'm sure he'll tell y'all a little bit more about that. But he said his temp was 75, and he'll share anything else he wants to share about that. But and it's related to that injury he talked about a few months ago. So, but this is what he did say. Tell Sarah, hey, she's one of my favorite people, is what he wanted to share with you, Sarah.
He's one of my favorite people. That's so sweet.
Aww. And so Sabrina shared her thing about Sarah. I'll just share with you what EB said about Sarah. I will tell you about my experience with Sarah. I have not known Sarah very long. I've seen her around, but last January, yes, not 2023, 2022, we went on a lovely trip to California, and we chatted a few times. But this is, I'm going to bring it to this incident. I don't know if you recall this incident.
I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to bring up.
Oh my gosh. Y'all know this about me. Maybe not you, Sarah, but y'all people. I've said this before on the podcast. I don't know how true y'all believe this about me or not. Sabrina EB always said, "Oh, Sharika's so nice and Sharika's so sweet." Blah blah blah. Not blah 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 that y'all are not genuine. I believe you are, but also there's a side of me that is also not that. And Sarah had the pleasure, and this was not directed to her, but she was in the crosswinds of this.
I saw it full force. I saw all of it.
Oh my gosh. Part of me feels like I should be embarrassed, but because I'm a grown adult, and this was like a mini child adult. Like, so you know what I mean? When I say mini child adult, I'm not trying to be disparaging to this person that this incident happened with, but I'm saying a fresh adult. Like, I don't know how old this child was. I mean, I don't know how old this young person was, but they were not like, they were a young adult, like a young adult. So the incident goes, we were standing up, like we were on a bus trip for a long time. We had been sitting for a long time. So at one point I decided I'm going to stand up a little bit because I'm tired of sitting down. And then I'm talking to some people behind me. Sarah's probably in and out of the conversation. And we're just chilling and chatting. So we finally get to our destination and the bus does like a hard stop. And I like fall over a little bit and like graze this young person. And they had a smart remark. I don't even know what they said to this point. And I said, "Excuse me?" And that wouldn't have happened if you were sitting down, is what the person said. And I said, "Do you have a problem? Do we need to take this off the bus?" Okay. Now, I probably should have been a little bit more, but also I told y'all on this podcast, I will fight a young person, a baby, an adult, a grandma. Like it could be whatever. It could be whatever with me.
You're out of control. The kickback does not condone the baby comment.
It doesn't, but also you try me. And Sarah said, and this, I'll let you speak, Sarah, but then Sarah was like, "I don't think she meant to do that." Like she said something like really sweet, like it was an accident or something.
And I don't know if you're just being gracious to this person, but like you said that to this person, and then they like, I don't know if they were already like stressed out or something, but they just started crying, like full blown sobbing. Yes. And I was like, oh my God. That's what did it for me, is like, I was like, I really don't think like it was that deep. Like she just hit into you and you like said something kind of smart, and you obviously were like, hey, it doesn't need to be like that. But yeah, this person was like, I don't know, under undue stress or something, because
I don't even know who y'all are talking about, but it's giving Karen energy.
Very much was so.
Snip first are the same people who, as soon as you give them an ounce of what they gave you, they're like, just like, no, you weren't crying when you snapped at me, so okay. Go ahead and suck this.
It sure was.
And I love Sharika. So is that your tip? Wow.
It was just, and I felt no ways about it, and I really was ready to see this child off the bus. Not to physically fight them, but I'm gonna be like, what? It could be whatever. Now, I know they weren't about that life, but also I was like, it could be whatever. Like this person, I'm not even going to go into all of that. But anyway, I was just like, that's one of my key memories Sarah happens to be in, and it had nothing to even do with her. She just literally was sitting next to that person and got the crosswinds of the issue of the situation. And she tried to be like helpful, like, hey, I don't think it was an accident.
Because it clearly was. And I don't know. I feel like people like sometimes have like preconceived notions of like, why are you so loud? Why are you up? I was just like, it's not, you need to calm down. It's going to be okay. Like, we're all on this bus in misery together. Because like that was the same trip that we got flooded, and then we had
flooded, we got COVID, we got all the things.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That was insane. So I like that to say, like, everyone was just having a horrible time, even though we were like smiling and like in several parades. Like we were doing fine, but like everyone was kind of stressed about it. So
literally we spent the whole trip wet. Like it was raining and we would be outside just standing in the rain. It was a whole thing. It was
all I have to say is I know the Barbies did not plan this trip. It seems like Ken behavior in the middle of a pandemic. Like, you know what? Let's just do the parade and all the things and put everyone together in a tight little bus. I remember that was right before I transitioned to a new career. And some of my friends were like, no, you should wait, because if you wait, you're going to miss. If you wait, you can go on the trip. And I was thinking that trip, you know what? It sounds like I had the right energy. Because I tell you one thing, feeling like it was time to go and being wet and people copying attitudes, you know, I got to leave with my head held somewhat high. I mean, I snapped on a few people here and there, but never Sharika level. So,
okay. And so, yes, that was a long side note, but that everyone shared about their love for Sarah. And I did admire her. And I was like, you know what? Her trying to be the peacemaker, and she's trying to be gracious, even though like she had nothing to do with the situation. She's trying to de-escalate the moment, and I appreciated that, Sarah.
I'm a Libra, that's why. So
okay. Well, I'm a Virgo. I don't know what that says about me, but I do be seeing the little things talking about the Virgos and how the Virgos be, and I'm like, it's not me, but maybe it is.
Honestly, Sharika, I think, you and my mom's birthdays are around the same time. Admittedly, I really know nothing about the zodiac except that I'm a Taurus and my husband's a Pisces. That's all I know. But that being said, my mom can pull that too. But then, I think all moms can pull that energy though. Like, oh, we're so sweet. Da 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 da. And then as soon as they whisper in your ear in the middle of church, you're like, uh-oh. All right, we're so off topic. Sharika, did we ever get to your temp?
Okay,
did we
so
ever
my
get
temp
there?
temp is 78. I'm doing great for the most part. You know, I'll go into that more on my expresses, but just how God can answer your prayers to just give you a different countenance. And I feel good so that's something that I feel good about right now. My circumstances hasn't changed, but neither has my God, and my countenance is good. So,
I love that.
Thank you, friend. But my song is I Knew You Were Trouble by Taylor Swift, because in its first line, I knew you were trouble when you walked in. That is about me, not because of the story I just told, but because I'm a little nervous about what we're about to get into, because I feel like I'm about to be the person that's in trouble. I feel like I'm about to be in trouble.
No.
If there are any two people that you can have a different opinion with in a civil conversation, Sharika, it is Sarah and I.
That's extremely true.
It's water under the bridge. Yeah, we'll still be friends after.
Thank you I'm already claiming that you'll be gracious to me, so thank you. And so that leads into what we're going to talk about. Sabrina said we're going to talk about the Barbie movie. I'm trying to see, is it too early for spoilers? Like, do you guys feel, or do you feel like it's been out long enough? People, if you know what, spoilers.
I feel like if you're listening to this, you got to know there are spoilers. You know?
Okay.
Like, you know, and I don't feel like there's a whole lot to be spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I read a lot about it before I saw it, and then just even seeing it is like its own experience, you know? So I really don't feel like spoilers there, you know?
Okay, good. So, there's so many thoughts in my head that I kind of want to there's so many thoughts I'll start with this. Sarah, you said a little bit, and I'll share my thing. Before I went and saw this movie, I knew nothing. And that was partly on purpose. I felt like the trailer didn't give too much away as to what the storyline would be about, but I also purposely did not read any things beforehand. I didn't look. I saw a lot of people posting videos with their thoughts and all the things. I purposely didn't want to see those because every now and then I like to go into a movie with no preconceived notions of anything, just like with no expectations. Because sometimes I feel like when things are built up too much, then I feel let down. Or, I just wanted to go with a clean slate, ready to see what it was going to be about. So that's how I walked into the movie. Sarah, did you want to say any more? I know you said you read or saw some things before, and did you want to add anything to that?
So maybe I'm being a little bit like generous about what I read or saw.
Okay.
Like I just didn't actively avoid commentary on it. And a lot of the stuff I saw was from again, either people like I didn't see it opening night. I waited like kind of a week. I got it on the Stubbs $5 Tuesdays. So
Love a deal. Love a deal.
Going on swing, right. So, but a lot of the stuff I saw was like people I know posting on Facebook. They were like, just saw this with my girls. They really enjoyed it. We dressed up. I was like, oh, a lot of like women seeing it together and just saying that they saw it. But then I would see a lot of like commentary videos pop up on are y'all on TikTok? Like,
I am not.
No, I'm not cool enough.
That's okay. That's okay. But so like the stuff that was popping up on my feed, like when it first came out, it was saying how like some news stations were calling it like a man-hating movie. And I don't know what that says about me that's popping up on my feed and the algorithms are like, she needs to see this. But so I was like, yes, a man-hating movie. I can finally, I was really like letting myself up to go. And then I saw it and it was completely like kind and generous and like, I don't know, it wasn't like a man-hating movie, but yeah, I really just kind of saw little bits and pieces of the plot and I still didn't even really think that anything was spoiled per se. So
Sabrina, how before you walked into the movie, had you saw anything? What did you have any like idea of what it was going to be about or anything like that?
Not to like just belabor everything I said last week, because I think I covered most of it, but to expound on that, I will say since last week, I saw some of what Sarah's alluding to, not even alluding to, just saying, point out that people were having like very defined opinions, not even on if the movie was good or not, but like, is this movie for men or does it break down men? Right. That sort of thought. And I thought, this is a movie about Barbies, not to like take away from the writers, because you can absolutely take something arbitrary and then put like depth in it, right? We do that as artists all the time. But I just feel like when you're going into that space, you can totally color the way you see the movie by whatever your own current worldview is, like, so I don't follow Ben Shapiro. Is that his name? Yes, Shapiro, but I saw this thing on Twitter where he was like burning the Barbie dolls, and ironically enough, he was dressed just like Ken, standing beside the Barbie poster. So Sharika, by the time we saw it, I was already ready to be like, okay, will this prove what I'm hearing or will it disprove? And in my mind, I was like, it's not what they're saying it is. They probably just need to calm down, because the same crowd that says that are the same people saying, let's go Brandon for the most part. And they just be crazy. So yeah, that's where I was. Also, I was very excited to dress up, and I'm excited Sharika dressed up with me. And I think when we post this episode, we should post the picture of us and Sarah's picture, which is on social media.
Yes. Yes.
Did you see his video, Ben Shapiro's YouTube video?
No, did he have a video too? I just saw the still of him burning the dolls.
He did, like, people are like kind of dragging him because he made 2 separate YouTube videos, like worth of commentary on the Barbie movie, and it's the same amount of playtime as the movie itself. And so people are dragging him. No. It's like, you have so much to say about a movie about dolls, like you were saying.
That hours? Oh, what?
Yeah. It was like one of them was like 50 minutes and then the other one was like again, they were pretty equal in size, but yeah, it was like 2 hours worth of YouTube commentary. And it's like, he's really passionate about this. Like, that's what I want to tell these people is like, you are really passionate about this movie that just is like covered in pink and glitter and is full of women.
Yeah, but I think it goes. Yeah, well, I would think it goes back to what you were saying, Sabrina. It's colored by your perspective. So, for whether you feel like, I think, which we can get into more, but just about whether you feel disrespected or whether you feel like your position is being threatened or whatever have you, you probably would have strong emotions or feelings about it.
I will say, before we get into the actual plot of the movie and our feelings about it, all for me in my mind, I often go back to our education system. Maybe because my mom's a teacher, maybe because I love education, but there's such value in forcing young kids to argue their own thoughts and opinions, right? So in reasoning and writing or English class, we sometimes have to do like a this or that paper. So you write very strongly to defend one side of an issue, and then you'd write the same paper to defend the opposite side of the issue. Or you have like debate teams or things like that. It's very healthy for me and strengthening my own worldview. The best thing my 10th grade history class teacher did was like enforce what my mom told us, which was question everything. Even when it came to our faith, she was always like, you can't be a Christian just because I am. You have to find that on your own. So I see when it comes to not just this, we've seen it during the pandemic with politics, with so many things, people just being so afraid of seeing something that is not their opinion and not their worldview, and like not wanting to like wrestle with that and chew on it. So I say all that to say, if you're listening and you're one of those people, go ahead and turn it off now.
Right. No, listen. No, I'm saying listen. It's a safe space for them too. Like it's going to be a safe space for me.
I had that same thought though, was that like the people that this movie was meant to like challenge and not provoke, but like kind of prod and, like here's a thought that maybe you haven't had before. 'Cause I mean, like you kind of talked about my Facebook post, but like it said like there's 2 different audiences that this movie was made for. And it was either like in my brain, I'm thinking like you're a woman and you relate to the experiences in here, or you're a man and you are threatened by the dramatic reenactment, maybe like the hyperbole of what, the caricature that this movie is trying to create for you to liken it to reality, and you do not like that. I found myself like walking into that theater and like looking around and trying to find like, the one guy there that didn't want to be there. Like the guy who was like dragged by his girlfriend who like might glean something from this movie. And I feel like it's a real shame that like the people who need to see it or would benefit from it, like probably won't,
And you know what, Sarah? I think the most like discussion that I had seen about this was on your Facebook page. I was in the comments. I was like, what the people saying about the movie? Because I think it was after I had seen the movie, and then I think I saw the post, and I was like, oh, what the people? Because I have feelings, so I'm like, well, what the people saying up in here? And I'm like, oh, okay. And I love your responses. Like Sabrina said, you were a very safe space for those people, even those that didn't agree with you or maybe had contradictory opinions. Very gracious. And I was like, okay. I felt good about that, though. I felt good about the dialogue on there. People are ridiculous, but people are going to be ridiculous, and that's okay, I guess.
Right.
People are entitled to their feelings.
Right.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to let you give a little synopsis of the movie. I was thinking about doing it, but I don't want to color it what I feel too much. So I feel like you'll be more unbiased.
This is great because I feel like you'll think this is funny, but I saw someone on TikTok again today, describe it as the Black Panther for white girls.
Love it.
Yes.
Should we please title this episode that?
Because that is like, that is not an unfair assessment in my brain. So like they were walking it through. So like there's this, you know, not imaginary world, but this faraway place that is governed by rules and people and resources that are not like our world. And people from that world is Barbie Land. So then people from Barbie Land find themselves in the quote unquote real world, and they bring outsiders with knowledge of the outside world. They wrestle with what the outside world is and power structures and resources that exist outside of the land that they're used to. And then they bring an outsider into their world. Conflict ensues. There is a power struggle, a power vacuum. And then they tussle over these new rules from the outside world, and order is restored, and they make a more just society for everyone. But yeah, obviously, Barbie and Ken find themselves in the real world, not in Barbie Land. And I feel like the real crux of the movie was that Ken discovered that men are in charge, and he was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Did you guys know that? Because obviously that's not how it works in Barbie Land. And then he brings patriarchy back to Barbie Land, and then they fight about it. And then they both have an existential crisis. Ken is Kenough, and there are a couple songs. There's a couple fights, and then everyone is happy again. So I feel like that was very like long and convoluted, and it's still like very confusing. I found myself trying to explain this to people, and I was like, you need to just see it for yourself. Like it doesn't make sense if I try and explain it to you, because I don't know.
Actually, Sarah, you did a really good job of giving a solid overview without getting to the nitty gritty details, which I appreciate, because if you're listening, you can still enjoy some of the movies, like why Barbie goes to Barbie Land in the first place and what she does when she gets her, and all those little tidbits are delightful. So when Ken brings back patriarchy to Barbie Land, which before that had like a female president, female CEO, all the court systems, like it was run by the Barbies.
By the Barbies, yeah.
That looked like horses, beer, women in revealing clothing, men in charge, but not really quite knowing what to do, and it just being kind of like silly. And that is the thing that has upset a lot of people, not just men, but people in general felt like the movie was diminishing the accomplishments that men have in this world, because believe it or not, y'all, men still do hold all the power. And I have debated with men, and not just any men. I've debated with white men on this, who are just like, we have no power. Women, and I'm like, dude, who holds all the wealth? Who holds all the most powerful positions in the world? And they're like, yeah, but no, but nothing. So in the Barbie movie, it did take it to this extreme of, yeah, this is what it looks like. Because even though we live in a patriarchy, not all things are like, I'm definitely not bringing Doug a beer. You know, Doug better get his own beer. If he asks nicely, I might bring him some water. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but I totally agree with the hyperbole of the situation, because within our world, I am very blessed and very fortunate, but we have the extremes on either side. So they did a good job of saying, yeah, basically this. I remember I used to work with some Europeans, and I was talking about how I did cheerleading in high school, and they were like, that is such an American thing. We don't get that. Like, why do the girls wear the short skirts and stand on the sides? I'm like, you know, I don't know.
Why do we?
That's just what I don't know. And the older I get, if I ever have a kid, if I ever have a daughter, I'm like, oh God, I pray she don't want to do cheerleading. Mainly because it messed up my vocal folds. And I didn't learn how to use them properly until I studied theater in college. And I was like, no. But just for that very reason, like why? And then when I went to grad school and I studied sports education in America and all that sort of things, and the political side of it, and just this idea that men were strong. We hit each other. Women, you're on the sidelines. Your job is to cheer us on. So do you all feel like the Barbie movie was too extreme in making that point? Do you feel like that's true of our world? Do you feel like as a woman, ultimately your job is a sideline and to kind of cheer on the men as they make wise or not so wise decisions?
That's a great question. I will
and maybe
say,
if you don't know now, Sharika, I would like to hear, and forgive me for cutting you off, but I would like to hear how you all thought about that when you were younger, like maybe middle school, high school, and then now where you are in life. So let's hear both perspectives.
Growing up, I didn't feel the weight or of the patriarchy. Like, I don't, like, in my household, I never felt like this was, I think intentionally, especially from my mom, this was intentional. It was no man's work, girl's work, like, because my mom she had 11 siblings, and and 9 of those siblings were men. And so it was 3 girls to 9 guys. So in growing up, she felt like the girls had to do all the things and the guys didn't. And it was men's things and girls' things were the housework and this and that and doing all the things for the guys. She talked about, her younger brothers being able to drive or whatever before. Like, it was just like, it was more of that. So when she had us and she only had 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl, I think she was more intentional, and it was like everybody's doing all the things. Everybody's going to do all the things. Everybody, you got your day to do the dishes. He got his day to do the dishes. Your day to make whoever finished the drinks makes like, it was more. And I think that was because she felt that it was unfair to her and probably her sisters. So maybe she was more intentional when she had us, that it wasn't like I didn't feel that, and wasn't the theme that I really was conscious of growing up. Middle school, high school, it wasn't even a thought in my mind. So that's kind of how that really wasn't a thing for me. I don't know if you want to answer to that part of the question, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I say this all the time, but I definitely feel like my parents were a really interesting like model for me as far as like gender roles are concerned. So I had a very similar experience, I think, to what you touched on. And I think this like boils down to just the marriage that my parents cultivated before they even had children. And it's interesting to me that you like described your mom as having the agency like within how your household was shaped. Like, for me, it was definitely my dad, because I don't know if it's just the way he is or innately how he kind of is, but he was definitely like the cook of the household every single night, like hot meal for all of us. And like talking to my friends, like even just that one piece was like not typical in other households. Like, he would cook, mom would do the dishes, like that was how they split dinner every night. Separate from that, he had kind of what I call like his dad-isms. And one of those that he would consistently tell all of us, it was me, my sister, and then my brother. I mean, he would tell all of this, but he would especially kind of hammer home the gendered aspects, like with us girls. He was like, you will never, ever, ever not be either the smartest one in the room or like up there. Okay. I don't care who you're in a room with. So if someone says like, hey, who wants to be in charge of this group or this project, or who wants to take on like this responsibility? If your hand doesn't go up, you're stupid. You're stupider than I thought, because you are fully capable of doing whatever it is they're offering. And so like there was that. One of his really, really big ones is just the way he like cherished my mom throughout their marriage. It was always like, if I'm forced to pick between any of you three or her, like burning building scenario, it's going to be her every time. Okay. And that,
that's just
the way our house ran. No, literally, he was like, okay, first of all, there's 3 of you and 1 of her. And I handpicked her, and I guess I kind of picked you, but like, not really if you think about it. So there were just like things about my household that like were not gendered at all. If they were like almost like oppositely gendered in a way that was like pointedly more egalitarian, because I think he kind of just recognizes the world that we live in and the world that his daughters are growing up in. So my household was definitely not like a breeding ground for misogyny or anything like that. I think it was definitely one of those things where like growing up, you know, the expectations of the world, I could feel that, even if it was just how different it was from my household growing up. So that's really what I related to in the movie, is like Barbie like stepping into the real world for the first time and being like, what is this? Like growing up in school and being like used to being compared to boys and being like, you're really smart for a girl. I was never used to that, because again, I just had that dialogue from my dad over and over and over and over again, of being like, you're smarter than anyone, much less any man. You know what I mean?
I love that. I was gonna say, that's interesting about the cooking thing. My dad, he didn't cook like the everyday, like usually in the evenings my mom would cook, like, you know, throughout the week, but like big meals like Thanksgivings. My dad is also a very good cook. He would cook a lot for the bigger holidays and things like that. But maybe, and it could have been just the timing. My mom probably got home from work earlier, which she did get home from work. She was a school teacher, so she got home earlier, so it probably made more sense. But my dad cooked, and he probably cooks now probably cooks now more than my mom does. Now that, you know, so I think so, yeah, some of those things maybe unconsciously did play a role in my thought process. Sabrina, did you how was your experience?
Definitely always told like, be all that you can be and be more. So that, but that was more so related to the color of my skin. When it came to my gender, there wasn't like a lot of conversation. I do come from a family of very strong women. So, you know, some of those stereotypical gender roles were probably flipped in my household between my mom and dad. But I learned a lot of the things probably that started my frustrations as a kid, because I did feel like in some ways my brothers got a little special treatment. And I felt like it was because my mom's expectations for my sister and I were just through the roof. But then I also started to see that seep out in the real world. And when it came to our family, it wasn't probably ultimately because I was a girl and my brothers were boys, but because our personalities were so different. We were disciplined different. It was just the way that she raised me couldn't be the way she raised him, because when you have kids, they're not all roses. One is a rose, one is a sunflower, one is I don't know. Why did I forget the name of all the flowers? You know what I'm saying? Like,
dandelion.
A dandelion. Some need more sun, some need more shade, water, that kind of thing. But that was an idea that was planted in my head early on because of me being like, well, how come if he doesn't do his chore on Monday and it's left over on Tuesday, I just have to do it, you know, that sort of thing. But then I saw, honestly, next place I saw it was in my church. You know, my church has always been a church that has said women can preach. Like, we're not on that crazy stuff. My church was founded by a man and his wife, but my church didn't start paying women until like the last 10 years. And just other things. You wouldn't see women have certain positions that were high up. They would just be stuck in a women's department. Like, literally, like, that's what they did, while the men did finance and property and leadership and that sort of a thing. So it was reinforced through my church. And then as I started to go in the professional world, which, to be fair, I started in the professional world through my church, I saw it. It was in the theater space that I didn't see it. It was just like, listen, over here, we're about who has the talent. Do you have the talent? Yes or no? If you do, that's fine. And, same thing in marching band. Like, I was head of my section. I was in symphonic band. I was head. It didn't matter. It was like the first time that I felt like, yes, like if I can just do the actual thing, it doesn't matter girl or boy. Until I grew up and started working in departments with men. And then I was like, it absolutely matters. And I won't go into it all because you've heard it on the kickback before, but there was definitely, once again, kind of a similar vibe that I felt when I was a kid of, okay, this professional man has cussed somebody out, but he's a really good trumpet player. So we're going to let it slide. This woman has sneezed in the wrong direction. How dare she? She's banished to hell. We don't like her anymore. Or sometimes two people in our church would be caught in adultery. The girl banished, the guy, all is forgiven. And that happened several times. So that idea for me being like exaggerated in the Barbie movie, like look at what the Kens are doing and they all think it's so great. And how many times in our world are we like, look at just the men can do this thing that doesn't even have to be that great. I mean, look at former President Donald Trump. Imagine if a woman had imagine a female who was married as many times. And I'm not saying those things are bad or good. I'm just saying, imagine is married as many times, paid off not one, but 2 porn stars, was charged of sexual assault. Like the conversation would be completely different. And I think that is just what the Barbie movie was shedding to light in this brilliant, funny, believe it or not, you all, heartwarming. I cried in it one part. In this brilliant, yeah, honestly, it was, I couldn't even get a full cry because Sharika was like, friend. And I was like, okay, Sabrina, soldier up. Sharika's going to make fun of you.
I was like,
no, it's fun. It's fun.
And I was just like, oh, she's so touched.
No, like, it's fine. It's fine. So all that being said, my opinion hasn't really changed from the time I was young to now, because I noticed that, but I also have the spirit that Sarah's dad gave his family, which is, it doesn't really matter. And maybe this comes from people like yes, the world is going to have the world in quotation marks is going to have this idea, but you still need to be the person that Christ called you to be and shine despite that. So Sharika, now as an adult, have you ever felt the pressures of that? Do you see it, etc.?
And I don't know, and this may be going to some of the thoughts of people. Like maybe it's because I haven't worked in I would say no, I don't feel those pressures. And I would not, because I don't work in a male dominated system, but I would say a lot of where I work, like I'm trying to think. I've never felt the obstacles of it, but I feel like, especially in the past few years where I worked mainly with a lot of women. So, I don't feel that. And I think also too, kind of in the same vein, but in a different way, as you were saying, like your view, my worldview also kind of colors how I experience things. So there's a lot of it, which I said this too about racism. We've talked about this in the past. There's a lot of things that I may miss because I'm just not as keenly aware of things. And maybe there might be things that I'm keenly aware of certain things, but that misogyny, I've never felt inferior. I've never had the talk that Sarah's dad had. No one ever gave me that talk, but I kind of always felt that way. So I wasn't looking, like, I was just like, I got something to say, I'm gonna say it, or I feel like I'm smart enough to contribute. So I've never felt a way about, oh, a guy or this or that, because I'm like, okay, and I bring something to this table too. But what I will say, interestingly enough, which is odd because this is not this was not necessarily modeled for me in my home in a different way. But I feel like in my marriage, I'm totally different than I am outside. You were like, I won't bring Doug a beer. I don't, and maybe it's because my husband is so much of an individualist. I be trying to do something for this man and he'd be like, I can do it myself. I don't need you. Like I can do it myself. You don't need to help me. You don't need, and I'm like, and I think that's mainly more of a love language thing. Like, I love you. I want to do, and that's not just, but like, because I love him so much, I'm always like, oh, let me get this. Let me do this. And it's not because, and I feel like if it was an expectation from him, I probably would not be doing that. I'd probably be like, right. Or you can get it yourself. But because he's so like, I'm a grown person. I can do my own things. I don't need your help. I got it. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. It like the more and more I'm like, I want to help. I want to do. I want to give. I want to, because it's like more, I feel like it's more of a love language, but he is so independent that it's just like, girl, if I want something to drink, I can get it. I understand you're in the kitchen, but guess what? I got 2 feet. I can use them myself and I can do it. So, and I'm just like, but I'm here. So I feel like that's a contradiction in me because I'm not like that outside.
No, I think that's just a love language.
Thank you. Okay, good. It makes me feel better because I was like,
yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
No, and for the record, I will and have brought my husband
a
beer. I was joking.
You're a very loving wife. But I was just thinking about that. When you said that, I was like, I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm definitely different with my man than I am outside. And I think it's because I have that safety to know that he's not overbearing. He is not like some people he's not overbearing. He is not have his expectations for me are the same thing he expects for himself. He's not expecting anything from me that he is not expecting himself to do. He's like, I'm going to cook one day, you're going to cook the next day. I'm going to do the dishes this day, the next day you're going to do the dishes. He does not expect me to do anything that he's not going to do. And I think that makes me feel safe and want to do things for him when I can or when he's open to, because he will do what he can for me.
Amen. Sarah, as a person who is not yet married, what is your opinion now as an adult?
Like just about structural misogyny, like we were saying.
Absolutely.
I feel like I have a very similar experience to Sharika. And again, I say this all the time. I don't know if it's just because, like it doesn't happen or if just because it doesn't happen to me. Like if I am like a white enough, like well off enough, I don't have like a class barrier or I'm not, there's no language barrier for me or anything like that. If I'm educated enough, if I'm even just like a strong-willed enough person that people just get out of my way. Kind of.
I love it.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm sure it's a combination of just like who I am and how I present and people being like, oh, I don't know if I would even kind of like mess with that. I'm sure it's also like there is some privilege infused in that. I will say every like slight I've had of a man against me has been on like a purely individual level. And like in ways that I'm like, you would have never done this if you were a woman. Like you would have either had the social awareness to like never treat another person this way, or you would have had the emotional like maturity or the emotional IQ to never like, I don't know, put yourself in this situation. Like to me, it was really interesting that like Ken's reaction to being hurt was to like ruin everything that Barbie ever had. And Barbie's reaction to being hurt was to work on herself. And then also to help Ken with his hurt. Like, have you ever been in that situation where like a man is asking you to help him navigate like his reaction to hurting you? Because I was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Like, did they read into like my last like breakup with a man where like I'm consoling him, but like you're the one that hurt me? How did this happen? Explain it
every
to me. Every single time. And that's always how it goes. So yeah, I don't want to say I don't like experience misogyny, because I'm sure I do in ways that I am just completely unaware of. Like especially as, again, a woman, but a small woman and a young woman. I'm sure that people look at me and assume things of me that are just not true, and that are things that I can either exceed or don't participate in entirely. But yeah, I feel like I almost actively press against it at this point. Like I am kind of an antagonizer, and my parents have to remind me to like not chase down every single fight that comes my way. So
no, we must. Somebody has to. Oh, yes, girl, you're speaking my language. I think the movie did a good job too of showing that it's not just the patriarchy that like can give us these feelings of maybe discomfort and sometimes just WTF, but also like within women. Because when Barbie goes to the real world, she is excited to talk to some middle school girls, and they shred Barbie apart. And there were no men at that table. So I think there's also this conversation that they kind of hint on at the end of the movie when one of the characters does this beautiful monologue just saying like, well, not saying, highlighting some of the frustrations that come with being a woman. I'm too thin. I'm too big. I gotta be loud and speak my voice, but not too loud. And then the middle school girls have something like, when it comes to girls, like, men don't like us and we don't like each other. So they did highlight like, okay, when I start to think about that, yeah, I remember growing up and telling people, oh, most of my friends are guys. I have more guy friends than girlfriends. And that feeling like a badge of honor. And, you know, I haven't felt that way or even thought about that in a long time. But when I heard that line in the movie, I was like, oh, snap. Obviously, as I matured, I was like, Sabrina, you're a girl too. And you know, girls can be just as dope. But why did that feel so good? Why did it feel so good to be like, oh, I played flag football. I was the only girl in the whole league. Yeah. You know, like, okay, is there this other idea within women? Like, are we like crabs in the, or can we be like crabs in the bucket? Or are we forced to be like crabs in the, like clawing over each other? And, oh, like she wears heels. I would never do that. You know, that kind of a thing. Did you all pick up on any of those energies in the movie? Maybe with Weird Barbie. Poor Weird Barbie.
I did have that thought with Weird Barbie, and like the pregnant Barbie. Did you guys like? Yes, where I was like, okay, like she's pregnant, but like, why does it almost feel like that's a dig at her? Like, I guess it was kind of alluding to the fact that maybe Midge doesn't like sell very well, because like, who wants a pregnant Barbie when you're like 5? But it was interesting to me that like what you're saying, they kind of highlighted like how like sexism and misogyny like kind of pits us against each other. They also did a really good job of highlighting how it affects men negatively too. Like misogyny hurts everyone, not just and I thought it was really interesting how like the crux of Ken's crisis was that like he wasn't getting enough like romantic attention from Barbie. Because I often like in films I see that as like the feminine role in, you know, artistic works like that is usually it's like the woman like pining after this guy and trying to attain this guy. But then it was also like the long-term, low commitment, casual distance girlfriend thing. He wanted her so bad, but then also like you could tell that he wouldn't have like done anything to sustain a relationship with a woman. Like it would have been the lowest level of commitment he could have possibly put into it.
I disagree, Sarah. I feel like he would. I do. I think he did that as a protection to himself because he saw. I feel like if at the beginning, like if Barbie was giving him the attention, he would have matched or exceeded that energy. I thought that was a defense mechanism.
It was like a guard, a wall.
Yes, and because he's like, oh, this is what the men do. They don't really let the girls too close to them. They basically have them as the accessory. So I felt like that was him being like, you hurt me. I know I'm not gonna let you get that close to me.
Well, I think maybe a surface level of that, Sharika, but also it was pretty clear that in the beginning, Ken wasn't Kenough. Like that was all he had to offer. When they went to the real world and he's like, should I walk? And like, to Sarah's point of saying like, okay, why am I comforting the person that's hurting me? And are you going to do more than the basics? Like, if you really want Barbie, level up. All you can do is beach. Okay? I need you to find some other hobbies. Like, he needed, as she said at the end of the movie, like, he needed to become Kenough.
Yeah.
Not just for Barbie, but for himself. I don't think really, Sharika, I think if Barbie had given him that energy, then what he could have given her back is essentially like maybe what a puppy can give us. Run it, and I'm excited to see you. And that does not, like Sarah said, make a long relationship.
Right. But I feel like and this is like whatever, but I think in the movie, Barbie, it was what was established. Like Ken was never given enough. Ken wasn't given any more than he was and Ken. So his whole role, what he was created to be, was an accessory to Barbie. And Barbie was created to be all the things. So he was acting in the role he was created to act in. And he didn't know, I think, in the self-growth, Barbie learned that, her frame of reference was also altered in the sense of like, I'm thinking I'm created to be an example to all these girls, but then there's also this adverse feeling that these young women, like I'm trying to portray that you can be all the things, but then that also made some girls feel like I can't ever be enough. But then, so I feel as though, and with Ken, it was like, I'm created to be this accessory, but what if the thing doesn't want me? So I think they were both working through their own journey of what quote unquote were created to be versus learning that there's more to you than what was initially set out to be.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. They did a great job with it. You laugh, you cry, you get to meet some discontinued Barbies, which were hilarious. Was Alan ever actually a toy though? I couldn't tell.
Yes.
He was.
He was Ken's friend. I watched this after I watched like this, like everything, like Easter eggs, like 14 or whatever Easter eggs of the movie. And they did talk about those little things. So it did say that Alan was Alan was supposed to be made of a friend of Ken. And he was, one of the things I guess was that, like he said it in the movie, but like, yeah, I can fit all of Ken's clothes. Like that was one of the like, I guess when they made the doll, they were like, oh, his clothes are interchangeable with Ken's or whatever. But yeah, Alan wasn't a real doll. Midge was a real doll. Here's where I'm going to be the trouble. I did not like the movie. I did not like the movie.
Good. Let's all give our ratings before the next section of the pod. Like 1 to 10.
2. I give it a 2. I'm going to give it a 2. And I'm here's the 2. Here's the 2. I give it a 1 because of the diversity. I love the diversity. And 2, because that was the 1. The number 2, I give it a point for Barbie and Barbie's classic. That's it. I will give it a half because I do like the messaging, but the reason why I don't like the movie is because I didn't like the message was good. I didn't like I didn't like the depiction of the message. I didn't like how they brought across the message. And we can get into it more, but I didn't like it because I felt like it was almost a little patronizing, and I felt it was like, okay. And I was talking about this with a friend, and because I was like, I got to get ready to explain how I feel on the podcast because I'm not, I can't, I don't want to. Yes. Okay, I'll let y'all go ahead and before I go into it, let me go ahead and let y'all go give your ratings. Go ahead.
I thought it was like a solid like 7. I don't know if I would see it like 2, 3, 4 times. I might see it a second time, but I thought it was pretty good. I will say I feel the same way about The Greatest Showman as what you're describing. Like I don't like that movie. I think it's kind of stupid that like we need to be like, oh, we're all different and that's good. So I can see where you're coming from, even if I don't agree.
I love that you said that because I love The Greatest Showman, but I love that. But I love that you said that because I could see that there too. Yeah, I like that you said that. Sabrina, what was your score?
Well, my version of the movie that everyone loves, and I won't even give a 1, is La La Land.
Oh,
I will never get it. I did not like
movie.
it, but I love the Barbie movie. I would go spend money getting to see it in the theater so I can have a deep cry without being judged. I thought that I love that. I heard you, friend. I'm joking. I thought the hyperbole of it, Shrika, I got you. It's totally fine. The hyperbole was great. I love the exaggeration because you're talking about toys. And when I think about how kids play with toys, everything is exaggerated. Mm-hmm. So I loved that. I loved, the set, the cinematography. Yeah. I loved all the light moments, the joking. Like, I have such a respect for writing that is witty and quick. They had lots of little moments like that. And when you can bring it home with the strong message in between all of that silly, and we're talking silly stuff, you all. We're talking Ken doing choreography and wearing a fur coat. We're talking about men talking about beaching each other and that being like slang for like fighting. Like, it was silly, but there are these beautiful, powerful moments and messages in it. And because if you can use your suspension of disbelief and take it for what it is, a movie about toys, then you might, you might enjoy it. A doll. Yeah, you might enjoy it. So there's mine. I like that we all, between us all, I think Barbie would probably get like a 6 between the three of us.
I would say this, I want to make this comparison. Have you all seen Zootopia?
Yes.
So when I was thinking about the Barbie movie and why I didn't like it, I felt like Zootopia had a strong message, and the story was so beautiful, and it is the way that the message came across, and maybe I think it was just the style. It's not my style, I think, is what it boils down to.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like pink and glitter, and it's very neon.
No, I love that because I'm a girl. I'm a girl's girl, and I'm a girly girl. But I'm just like, I feel like the over topness of it, I don't like that. I'm over top in certain ways, but I'm like, don't like. I just feel like the message was so good, like, but it's meant to be a silly movie. And there's some, and those type of movies aren't my movie. Like, my husband more is like some of those movies that are just so over the top and ridiculous. And there's people who love that humor that's just like not my humor. So I was just like, this is dumb. I didn't find it funny. I just felt.
All right, so we got it. Sharika gives it a 2. I give it my high rating. And Sarah, I think that was a very fair rating. Either way, I'd say go see the movie. And if you want to talk to any of us about it, hit us up. We can talk to you about it all day. I loved it. Now going into our scripture funny for this week, we are in Luke chapter 6, verses 46 through 47. And of course, we have Jesus speaking, and it's so funny. Why are you so polite with me? Always saying, yes, sir. And that's right, sir. But never doing a thing I tell you. These words I speak to you are not mere additions to your life, homeowner improvements to your standard of living. They are foundation words, words to build a life on. One, I thought this was great for what we were talking about today, because it's like, hey, don't just laugh at the points being made and then go on, Sabrina, and say things like, well, when I was younger, most of my friends were guys, and like wear that as a badge of honor because women rock. We're amazing. And now most of my friends are women. And I'm proud to say that. That's my badge of honor. But like Jesus was saying, like, hey, don't just listen or get a good message or hear a new perspective and then just like, okay, yeah, that was great. And then just not let it impact your life in any way. He's like, literally do the things I tell you to do. So I would say, get the message and let it be a thing that helps you be a brighter light in this world. Sharika and or Sarah, what do you have to expound on today? Express.
Go ahead, Sarah. I'll go.
Go ahead.
No. If you have something,
I did not have thoughts.
Okay, I would say my expresses is that God will give you what you need, and God will provide. So y'all know I've been going through the things. And I've just been like, God, give me peace, give me peace, give me peace. And the Lord answers those prayers. So, the Lord sees you, the Lord cares, the Lord is with you, and he answers. And that's all I wanted to express to you all today.
Yeah, I would probably say, a similar thing, but then going off of that scripture that Sabrina shared, like, Lord, give me peace, but also allow me to be someone else's peace. Again, and I feel like it's just a real easy gimme whenever I like try to have conversations around this movie and people are kind of like hostile about it. But I just want to be people's peace, even if we don't agree. Even if I love Barbie and you don't, Sharika, that's totally fine. And you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to plant seeds in you that were not there before.
And you did. And you did. And you did.
So those are my thoughts. That's it. That's all that's rattling around up here.
Well, of course, my recommends, because I gave it the highest rating, is the Barbie movie. Absolutely loved it. Go see it. Talk to us about it. It'll be a good time.
Oh, and Oppenheimer. See it after Barbie. Don't see it before.
I love that.
Seen it?
I have not.
It's an excellent film, but it is about nuclear war. So it's kind of like you have to pick your poison, what goes first, Barbie or nuclear war.
Maybe you may need the encouragement or the uplifting after the nuclear war.
I don't know.
Sarah has a good point, though, about how seeing Barbie and then seeing Oppenheimer kind of reinforces some of the themes. Do you care to elaborate on that really quickly, Sarah, or do you want them to see for themselves?
Well, I mean, obviously see it for yourself, but like, I don't know. It was a real like tonal shift for me. Even if, going from Barbie where it was like all women, it was like all the men were like side characters. And then Oppenheimer, not that there weren't like women in there, it did not pass the Bechdel test. I will tell you. But like it was pretty egalitarian. It was just like, I don't know, very like dark. But there were women there. There were women in there doing things. There were women in there that were things other than sexual objects. That's all I'm gonna say.
Nice. Because all I've heard about that movie is 3 hours. It's a little bit boring because they talk a lot of science talk and you see homegirls' boobs.
You do.
So that is all I've heard about the movie.
It's excellent. It's great.
And Sharika, what are you recommending in our round today?
I am recommending a movie from Netflix. I haven't seen it yet, but it's right up my alley. Y'all know I love a little romantic comedy, and it's Happiness for Beginners. I'm planning on watching it this weekend. So it's on Netflix, Happiness for Beginners. Well, guys, our time is coming to an end, but Sarah, I want to thank you. I'm sure Sabrina joins us. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. You're amazing. funny, smart, wonderful, and we are so grateful. I know EB is probably jealous that he missed his time with you, this time with you as well, because as he said, you're one of his favorite people. And I'm sure now one of the podcast people's favorite people. So thank you for stopping by, Sara. We got to have you on again anytime.
Oh, there he is. He just texted me.
Okay, see? And he said, sorry I missed today's episode. See? We talked about him.
You better be sorry. So,
EB, we wish you well. We wish you good health. I know you'll never hear this because you don't even listen to your own podcast, but you know what? The well wishes are still out in the atmosphere for you, brother. So,
there we go.
Guys, we're going to wrap it up. Anything else before we go?
No, just thank you so much for coming, Sara, and we will definitely have you again when EB is back with us from his summer happenings and ministries.
Yes.
Hi,
all right.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again. And if life tries to knock you down, make sure you guys kick back.